Our film starts at the literal second after the ending of the first film, where we see the carcasses of Lillian and Mara, while Michelle gives a quick recap via voiceover of the first film. We then see the stop-motion demons help Radu attach his head back to his body. He walks over to a coffin, opens it, and stakes what is supposed to be his brother Stefan, drinking his blood and stealing the bloodstone, pretty much making the entire first film completely pointless, since he could have done that at any point during that film. He then ignores the bloodstone and goes over to another coffin which contains new Michelle. As he goes to stake her, the sun comes out, resulting in Radu cowering to get away, saving her. As dusk falls, Michelle gets up and finds the corpse of Stefan and takes the bloodstone from him while crying. As Radu gets up, Michelle walks past all the carnage and then escapes the castle as Radu has a tantrum when he realizes she took the bloodstone. She heads back to the fortress her and the other girls were staying at and packs her stuff. She then sees her reflection fade in the mirror before taking off. Radu just misses her. She then hops on a train out of town. She then arrives in Bucharest, but wherever she goes, the shadow of Radu follows her, so she heads into a hotel where she asks to make a phone call. The call to her sister Becky, where Michelle babbles nonsensically other than telling her sister to come to Romania. She then gets a room, but begins to show signs of bloodlust. After a nudie crying shower scene, we see Radu head to a graveyard where his creepy mother is. She wants nothing to do with Radu until he presents to her the dagger he used to kill his father with. She's happy to hear the king and Stefan are dead, but demands that he kill Michelle and bring the bloodstone. Radu tells her no and that he would rather keep her. His mother then bites his hand and gives him some weird witchy instructions. Back at the hotel, the sun comes up and Michelle freaks out as the sun peeks through the window. She heads to the bathroom and hides in the tub. She must have forgotten to put up the do not disturb sign as the maids come in and find her body. They call the police and it becomes a crime scene. As the police are leaving, the main detective finds the bloodstone. As the coroner drives off with the body, Michelle wakes up, causing the van to crash, and then runs off. She finds a playhouse where there's a glass coffin in a storeroom. She then uses that to sleep. Back at the castle, Radu does all the weird stuff his mother asked him to do, while we see Michelle's sister Becky arrive at the airport. She gets to the hotel where she asks about Michelle, and they send for the police, and a guy named Mel from the U.S. Embassy joins them. Instead of telling her what's going on, they bombard her with a bunch of questions. They finally inform her that Michelle is missing and show Rebecca the bloodstone. That night, Michelle wakes back up, puts on some of the clothes she finds in the storeroom, and heads out. She makes a call to Rebecca's room, but hangs up before she can answer. We then see her go out where she can hear everyone. She sees a guy walk past and begins to stalk him and follows him to an underground rock club. They begin to have a makeout session, but she begins to fang out and takes off just as she was going to lose control and bite him. She goes back to her coffin, crying. Back with Rebecca, her and Mel go visit a local professor to ask about Michelle and her friend's trip. He explains where they went and volunteers to take them up to the monastery, also called a fortress in the first film, because it has no telephone. As they look through the property, the professor gives them what he remembers about the Vladislav story. They head around the castle with Mel getting freaked out, and rightfully so. We then see Radu wake up as Rebecca goes around screaming for Michelle, Lillian, and Mara. Radu confronts them and kicks them out without letting them see him. On the way back to the car, Rebecca says she wants the police to look into Radu. After nightfall, Radu follows them back to Budapest. The professor acts like it was the funnest time he's had in years, and Rebecca and Mel seem to hit it off. As Rebecca gets out of the car, she sees Michelle, who then runs off as she calls her. Rebecca eventually catches her, and as she begs Michelle to tell her what's going on, she just gives her non-responses. Michelle takes the bloodstone from her, asks her to tell their mom that she's sorry, and then disappears as she sees Radu. When Michelle gets back to the storeroom, she takes a drink from the bloodstone. She's then confronted by Radu, who tells her that she's now his fledgling, takes the bloodstone, and then disappears. He heads back to his mother, where he gives her the bloodstone. He basically tells her he's lonely and actually does have emotions. They argue as his mother wants Michelle destroyed and Radu wants her for himself. Back with Rebecca, she tells Mel and Lieutenant Martin about her confrontation with Michelle, and Martin continues to prove he's useless. They head back to the weird professor, who finally finds a book about the Vladislavs, which explains what the bloodstone is. Mel gets super creeped out as all the stuff in the story relates to Rebecca's encounter with Michelle. Once again, Michelle heads out at night and heads back to the underground rock club she went to a few days before. Meanwhile, Radu stalks Rebecca and Mel. The guy from before approaches Michelle and takes him back to her storeroom. They go back to the makeout session they were having before, but this time Michelle doesn't hold herself back, gives in to her bloodlust, and feeds on him. She doesn't take too well to it as she throws up right after. Back at Rebecca's room, Radu heads inside. He then pervs out trying to bite her on the thigh, but is interrupted by the phone ringing. Rebecca answers it, and it's Michelle who asks for her help and tells her location. Side note, seriously, Radu would get a ton more done if he didn't take forever when he wanted to bite someone. Rebecca meets Michelle at a park where she admits to killing. As the sun starts to come up, Radu comes to confront them and then disappears in the shadows, taking Michelle with him. He takes her to his mother's crypt and tells her that they will go back to the castle at nightfall. Rebecca explains to the professor and Mel about her vampire encounter. The professor believes her, while Mel continues being the pessimist he is. The professor grabs some vampire hunting weapons and tells Rebecca he'll take her to him. Mel tries to talk her out of it, and when it doesn't work, he storms out. When the professor and Rebecca get to the graveyard, they find Radu and Michelle laying in a crypt. The professor goes to stake Radu, but is stabbed in the chest by Radu's mother, who then kidnaps Rebecca. When Michelle wakes up, she finds Rebecca being tortured by Radu and his mother. Radu tells her that Rebecca is the source of all her pain, and feeding on her will free her of it. Radu is clearly a leg man, which I can appreciate. He almost bites her, but then takes absolutely forever once again, giving someone enough time to stop him, which Michelle does by stabbing him in the eye. She then lights his mother on fire, sending her off, and then stabs him repeatedly with the dagger. Michelle then frees Rebecca, who then impales Radu with the spear the professor brought. They then go to escape, but Michelle can't leave because it's daytime. Rebecca states she'll wait for the sun to go down for her, but the film ends with Radu's mother grabbing and taking Michelle, followed by the reveal that there will be a Subspecies 3. Thanks for watching. If you like these recaps, please leave a like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to know every time I update. There is now an option to be a channel member where you'll get access to exclusive recaps from late night vampire catalogs like Showtime, Cinemax After Dark, USA Up All Night, and much more. If you want to help my channel grow, please check out my Patreon where members can get exclusive content that can't be uploaded on YouTube along with download options. Link is in the description.